Too often I hear about people who are playing through their injuries, and it doesn't do any good for you. So today I'm going to talk about some things you can do to still feel like you're making progress and not getting behind in case you have an injury. And we're talking about that because I'm injured and I can't really play drums right now. I recently sprained something in my shoulder, and trying to play is not good. And so, doctor's orders are rest it. So that's what I'm going to do. But I also just got done playing a musical, and I was thinking to myself, wow, what if this injury happened right before the musical started? Like, what if it happened 2 weeks before the musical, when I started kind of looking at the book to make sure I was ready to go and understood all the parts I had to play? And I want to share with you kind of what I would go through in a situation like that, because hopefully it will be valuable for you. Sometimes life throws curveballs your way, and you can decide how you want to handle it. And it's always the more mature approach to not push and play through any sort of injury. So if I was having this musical coming up in a week or two and I had this situation where I couldn't play right now, I would be doing a lot of mental practice. I would be having the book opened in front of me, and I would be listening to the score and following along. So I was getting the styles of the pieces down. I would be marking in things that I needed to know for myself, like cues from the cast on the stage or cues from other instruments that are in the band. I'll be making lists of all of the instruments I need for each song, because the score book I got didn't have that in there. So that way I'm preparing everything that I can, every aspect of the performance, without even really having to sit behind and play the instrument. Now, part of the reason I can do that is because of the experience I have. And I've been playing for a while, so I don't necessarily need to sit down and learn how to do a mambo groove or something like that for this particular situation. But I've heard of stories of performers who have learned entire pieces without ever getting behind the instrument. In fact, there's a story about Keiko Wabe, and if you don't know who she is, look her up. She's a marimba artist, probably one of the greatest to have ever lived. And there's a story of her learning repertoire on a plane on the way to a gig that she had never really learned or seen before. And she just opened it and did mental practice during her time on the flight and landed and was able to perform the gig. So mental practice can be a really valuable thing. I think it's best if we listen with the music in front of us. All right, but it can also be helpful to listen to the music, without having the score in front of us. But if you can get that score in front of you, that's always going to be more beneficial. We're a little more focused. It's like a little more dedicated, rather than just, popping on the tune while you're driving around town or something like that, and your mind is making other decisions besides just what's happening musically. So the other approach you can do is do what you can do, right? For example, my shoulder is messed up right now, but that doesn't mean I couldn't sit down and work on my feet on a drum kit part, just to get my feet going, learn something new, learn some new patterns, play some double bass drum drills or something like that and get your feet going. It doesn't mean that I can't fine tune some things in my left hand, because my left arm is fine. So I could do that if you wanted to really play. So do what you can do. If you hurt your ankle, then don't play with your feet on the drum kit. Keep that pressure off the ankle so your ankle's good, but work on your hands and develop your hands a little bit. So look at your situation and figure out what you can do without prolonging the injury. All right, this is something I've done before. When I was younger and trying to audition for colleges, my hands were so injured, and I later found out what it is. Well, at that, I found out a few weeks before, right? I found out that I had bruised the muscles in this kind of webbing in my hand between my thumb and my pointers on both hands. They were bruised, so they got bruised because I was not using good technique and I was squeezing a lot. And I was also practicing a lot. So they were just under constant tension. I wasn't engaging my back fingers as well as I probably should have to take some of that pressure off. And just, some mistakes that I had just kind of fought through. And it was to the point where my hands were almost frozen like this. And it hurt just to even grip the stick. I couldn't grip shoelaces to tie my shoes. Like, it got to a very bad point. And at that point, I went to a doctor and they looked at it and they told me, yep, you have this bruised muscle and you need to stop using it for 6 months. And even at that, it will probably never be 100% healed. It will always be something that can come back and be an issue for you, right? And I knew that I had college auditions in about 1 month. So I was like, well, I'm not taking 6 months off. That's crazy. I'll keep pushing through, maybe just practicing for less. I would practice for 10 or 15 minutes at a time. I bought bigger drumsticks so my hands were more opened. And I just pushed through because I was, young and dumb and I had this deadline and I didn't know what else to do. All right. And to be honest, I don't know what I would do today if that same situation happened, because something like a college audition is, if you don't hit it, you got to wait till the next year usually, and it can kind of set back your life plans for years. So that's a tough situation. I don't know how I would advise you on that situation. But eventually I did take a little bit of a break. I let them heal better, and then I fine-tuned my technique. I learned all the things, the issues I was doing. I learned how to really control with my back fingers and just master all of those issues that I had. If this musical was tomorrow and I couldn't play, the first thing I would do is I would call the director and say, hey, I had an injury. I can't play. Can we call in, a sub for me? Can we get a backup? Here's a list of people I would recommend. Because if you're going to go there and not play to the best of your ability, that lets down the entire group. That's not just about, you might look bad, because you might if you're playing, but you're not playing to the best of your ability, or you're, just destroying my shoulder more and more. That wouldn't be good for my shoulder because it's not going to heal as well or as quickly. And then I might keep pushing off into other things in life. So that's what I would do. That's how I would handle those situations. That's how I would recommend any student of mine handle those situations. Call, ask if you can get a sub, explain the situation, provide a list of people you'd recommend if you have a list of people you'd recommend. And then that's just professional. And most people will respect that. They'd understand that. And they'll continue to call you for jobs in the future. So it's not really a huge hindrance, as far as to your careers or your goals or future performances and stuff like that. The last piece of advice I have is making sure that your training and your practicing is being done in the right way to sort of prevent injuries from playing, right? Luckily, my injury was not from playing. Since that playing injury I had, when I was a teenager, I haven't had any other playing injuries. But I've watched other colleagues of mine have them, from carpal tunnel and tendonitis to, different issues along those lines. But I have noticed that if you've trained the right way, and to be fully open about that, that means involving rudimental concepts to your playing, to your practicing, getting behind the snare drum, and developing the strength, not only in your muscles, but in the tendons that you use to play. The stronger those things are, the less likely you're going to be to get any sort of playing injury, because you've built up a really solid foundation for yourself. All right, so no matter what kind of playing you primarily do, I'd recommend always doing some sort of rudimental warm-up. If not, give yourself 3 or 4 months in a year where you really focus your practicing towards those rudimental foundations. And that's gonna get you that the muscular and tendon foundation faster by giving yourself a chunk of time to focus on it. Because what we do is physical. It's very physical. It's like kind of being an athlete, right? So you got to keep your body in check. You got to keep your body in gear so that you can keep playing anytime an opportunity comes up. You want to take those gigs. You want to have fun playing those gigs. So that's what I'd recommend. Thanks for checking out this video. You know, I don't do a whole like recording session in one day and blast out, you know, 10 or 15 videos and then upload them on a schedule. I try to do these, you know, every week, and that way I can serve all of you better, because I'm looking in the comments to see what things you want and what things can help you, and that way I can make videos that are directly impacting you in a little bit more of a, you know, timely manner. So apologize for not giving you more of a drum lesson today, but maybe that's something I'll do in the future, is get a few videos in the hopper in case a situation like this comes up again. You can still get a drumming instruction video from me, but I still wanted to be there for you. I want to talk about this. I think it's important. I think it's important to understand how to handle injuries, because they're going to happen in life, and it's, you know, a stressful thing to figure out sometimes. But keep playing, all right? Keep practicing. Drop in the comments what you want to see, because I'm making new videos as soon as this heals up. Hopefully next week I'll be able to do a little drumming. So let me know what you want to see, and I'll continue to make videos that help you get better faster. See you next time.